Hi, everybody. I'm Shania Chavis-Rucker. Fulton County Elections Director Richard Barron is providing an Elections 2021 update. Take a look.
Fulton County. Today is the 2021 general municipal election. This is a countywide election. We have 257 polling locations open today, more than 2,000 poll workers, all polling places opened on time. There have been no significant lines today to speak of. We do have reports of issues at a couple of locations. One was at North Springs High School in Sandy Springs, and one was at the John Burdine Center in Atlanta. In both of these cases, it's related to a poll technician issue. In both cases, the poll managers followed the proper procedures and allowed voters to vote while using emergency ballots while equipment issues were resolved. Turnout's been light but steady throughout the county. We often see peak voting in evening hours as voters get off from work for the day. Remember that the polls close in the city of Atlanta at 8 p.m. and the remainder of the county, they close at 7 p.m. We had 25 early voting locations open. We had 74,222 votes cast during early voting. Our busiest day was Friday. Early voting ran smoothly. This is higher than in the 2017 general election, when we had 40,209 people vote early and 18 sites open. This is consistent with the overall increase in early voting participation that we've seen over the years. We also distributed a voter education mailer to all voter households that included all early voting information. We are confident that we are prepared to comply with all of the SB 202 requirements. The greatest challenge will be if we have any lines at any of the Atlanta precincts, because those close at 8 p.m. If anybody has an absentee ballot that they wish to return today to one of our offices, either our satellite branches at the South Annex or the North Annex, or here at the Government Center, City of Atlanta voters can return ballots to any one of those three locations until 8 p.m. Any of the voters that are outside of the city can return ballots until 7 p.m. About half of our precincts are in Atlanta, so it could be a significant issue if any Atlanta precincts have, because we have 1 hour less to report numbers in the city of Atlanta versus what's happening outside of the city where polls close at 7. We've issued 7,635 absentee ballots, and as of yesterday, early afternoon, we'd received more than 4,800 of those back. It is likely to have a runoff election in at least one municipality, and the runoff date will be Tuesday, November 30th, and we will announce the early voting sites for that election once this election is certified. And now I can take questions.
You have two places where you had people having to vote provisionally this morning. How would you term this success of this so far, then, if it's just those two incidents where you've had issues?
Well, I think one thing you can point to, the progress, say June 2020, when the voting system was new and there were issues, most of the poll workers just struggled with what to do. Today, those poll workers immediately they opened the polls, they issued emergency ballots and processed voters until the issues were resolved. So that's progress right there. I think this election has run smooth, especially given how well early voting went. And now we've got a smooth running election day today. And so I would say right now it looks as though the election is going to be successful, as have the previous 5 before that.
You said there was 2 sites with, I think it was technician issues. You said, can you explain that to maybe someone who doesn't work in elections? What does that mean?
These were the equipment that the poll technicians had. They did not deliver those pieces of equipment on time, which were the poll pads. So we'll have to find out why they didn't make those deliveries, but I won't know that answer to that today.
And with that state review panel looking into Fulton County, any extra pressure for this election? Any extra state observers anywhere that you're aware of? Anything different for this election because of that?
No, we have the performance review panel is actually here today. I mean, I've met with 2 of them today, and they'll be monitoring today. I'm not sure that it adds any extra pressure. I mean, If you're the elections director of Fulton County, you have scrutiny anyway, so there's always pressure. I think we've been cooperative with the performance review panel. They seem like 3 individuals who are objective and are going to look at us fairly, and I think I have a sense that they'll come to the proper conclusion on this. I've told staff to focus on us and not to worry about all these external things that happen, because we can get distracted. All the externalities that we've dealt with since June of 2020, we just have to do what we do.
You talked about that new reporting deadline with SB 202. That's not reporting actual numbers, that's just votes counted, right? Is this adding
Right.
an extra step? Is this going to delay our vote counts later?
No, this shouldn't have any impact on tabulation. But what it does is it adds an extra step at the polling place. And I think the legislature needs to go back next year and correct the law, the inadequacy in the law that only gives the city of Atlanta precincts 2 hours to report these numbers rather than 3 hours, which all the other precincts get. And I'm not sure why we had that oversight at the legislative level, but I think they'll probably look at it next year and correct it.
Does this set you up to struggle to meet that deadline?
Only if we have lines. I mean, if the turnout is heavy at the end of the day and we have some lines in some precincts, it's going to be tight to get some of those in because it's almost half of our precincts.
How long did those 2 sites experience issues? What was that time frame? Will there be any time extended tonight?
Those polls opened on time and voters voted, so we won't have to extend the polls. I think the first location we got the new poll pads delivered there around 10 o'clock. The second one, it was later. I think it was closer to noon.
What about Sutton Middle? Were there any issues there, any emergency ballots?
The only thing that I've heard about Sutton Middle is that the scanner was down for a period of time, but the backup for that is to put the ballots into the emergency bin for scanning later.
Any other places where that happened?
Of scanner issues, I don't know of any right now, no.
And do precincts usually have 2 scanners?
It depends. It depends on the size, the registered voter count.
Gotcha.
Some do, some don't.
And help me understand when they're done, when they've shut down the precincts, the vote total, how does it get transmitted to you ahead of the 10 p.m. deadline?
We have a tool that we use with an internal program called WebEOC. Those numbers will go there, and then we'll put it into a data reporting tool that the Secretary of State's office has provided.
So it's an online portal. It's not
Yes.
like a phone unit or anything.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Report of Sarah Smith Elementary, a sign outside of the polling place that said that the polling place has been moved to a different location.
Well, 7A votes at Sarah Smith, and then 7A1 was moved to another polling place. The sign out there says 7A voters vote here, 7A1 voters have to go to this other location. And the school moved the polling place within the school, and the entrance to that is around the back of the building rather than the front, which voters are used to going through.
And have you been able to count any of the absentee ballots yet as you did last year?
We've scanned all through yesterday. Everything that we had received had been scanned. So what we're going to be processing today is what we got in the mail late yesterday and today, and anything that's dropped off at one of our 3 offices.
With SB 202, can you remind me, how many drop boxes are there, I guess, today versus 2020? Do you guys got any feedback of any hardship with a lower number?
The drop box is closed on Friday. What we have today is there's a provision in the law that allows voters to go to one of our offices and actually hand it in to our office. But the drop boxes, we only had 8 drop boxes open versus 38 last year. I think we still had a significant number of voters use those drop boxes in addition to the mail, but it does have an impact. I mean, when you have 38 drop boxes around the county, it makes it very convenient for voters. Over 90% of our voters were within 3 miles of a drop box last year. Now there's, there can be tens of miles between a voter's home and a drop box. So it has had a significant impact on voters, and they aren't open 24/7. We used to have Fulton police surveilling them 24/7. Now we have they're inside an early voting site, and they are only accessible while the early voting site's open. So, and somebody's just monitoring that all day. I guess administratively we have to do what the law tells us to do.
Two quickies, Rick. The way it's going right now, if you had to ballpark when we would get results, and what is your biggest concern at the moment?
Well, I think, I think at 5 o'clock, voters that want to vote out a precinct, or if they're in the wrong precinct, voters before 5 o'clock, you can't vote out a precinct provisionally without, your ballot won't count. So you have to go to your correct precinct. After that, I guess it's going to be, this is the first time we've been using the data reporting tool, so I think everybody's a little anxious to use that and see how it's going to work tonight. But I think we've got a system in place that's going to allow us to report those numbers relatively easy. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's probably causing me the most anxiety today.
And timing for results, when you think ballpark we might get those?
I mean, I would like to think that we'll have most of it in by with Atlanta closing at 8, usually we like to have most of everything in by 11. It gives 3 hours because we've got 9 check-in locations around the county. So I would say if midnight would be a goal for us, at least for the Atlanta precincts, and maybe 11 for the precincts outside of Atlanta.
Richard, I apologize I arrived late. Can you just give me a brief overview of how today is going, any challenges you all have been facing?
Sure. I'll run through this again real quick. Today's the 2021 general municipal election. It's a countywide election. We have more than 2,000 poll workers in the field. Voting began on time at all locations, and there have been no significant lines. We do have reports of a couple of issues at locations. One was at North Springs High School. The other one is at John Burdine Center in Atlanta. Both of these cases, this is related to a poll technician issue, and the managers followed proper procedures, allowed voters to use emergency ballots or provisional ballots while equipment issues were resolved. Turnout's been light but steady throughout the day. We often see a peak in the evening hours as voters get off work for the day. We had 24 early voting locations. Early voting ran smoothly. A total of 74,220 votes were cast. And with Friday being our busiest day, this is a much larger turnout than we had in the 2017 general election during early voting when we had 40,209 at 18 locations. But this is consistent with the overall increase in early voting. We distributed a voter education mailer to all of the households in Fulton County that included all of the early voting information. We are confident we are prepared to comply with all of the SB 202 requirements. The greatest challenge will be if we have any lines in Atlanta precincts when they close at 8 p.m. About half of our precincts are in Atlanta, so this could be a significant impact. Only Fulton and DeKalb counties have this issue. We issued 7,365 absentee by mail ballots. As of yesterday, more than 4,800 of those had been received. And we will likely have a runoff in at least one of the municipalities. The runoff date will be Tuesday, November 3rd, and we'll announce early voting locations after we certify the results of the election. What did I say? Oh, November 30th for the runoff. Okay, any more questions? All right, thank you.
Now, to get all of the Fulton County elections information, visit fultonelections.com.